Welcome to NovoEDTalks, where we reveal real-world strategies and expert insights from learning and development professionals. In every episode, we chat with practitioners, course designers, learning strategists, and business leads. We hear about their experiences in the learning industry and predictions for the profession and the trends that they're seeing. But before we get started, a little bit about NovoEd. Founded at Stanford's Social Algorithms Lab in 2012, NovoEd is a people-centric, capability-building platform that combines social and collaborative learning to drive performance readiness at scale. Through cohort-based experiences centered around human interaction, NovoEd taps into collective wisdom, placing each learner at the center of perspective, application, and expertise. Large enterprises such as 3M, GE, Marriott International, and Nestle partner with NovoEd to accelerate their critical initiatives, reconnect teams, and achieve rapid alignment through learning that is felt, experienced, and swiftly transformed into impact. Now, let's meet our guest for today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast, a space for training trailblazers to get real. My name is Melissa Fisk. I'm the producer of the NovoEDTalks podcast, and today I am joined by Erik Skogsberg, who is the VP of Learning Experience at Voltage Control. Erik has helped leaders and teams navigate their most important conversations, the ones that shape strategy, culture, and the future. As VP of Learning Experience at Voltage Control, he designs and leads immersive, research-backed programs that transform facilitation into a craft, a calling, and a catalyst for change. From scaling global workshops to building certification programs in facilitation and collaboration leadership, he works at the intersection of systems thinking, design thinking, and human-centered learning. He's partnered with the top companies, institutions, and nonprofits in the world, helping leaders facilitate alignment, navigate complexity, and move from misalignment to momentum. Erik, I love that. Welcome to the NovoEDTalks podcast.
Thank you. That sounds really good.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's a bit long. I feel it's like I should tighten that up a little bit. But thank you.
It's very flattering, right, to hear your own voice, right? Like,
It's okay.
yeah,
Actually, that turned out pretty good. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Erik, why don't you start by just kind of introducing yourself a little bit more, getting into some of that, and talking about your role in your company?
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I'm the VP of Learning Experience for Voltage Control, which we are a facilitation academy and consultancy that ultimately helps organizations of a variety of stripes, top companies, universities, NGOs all over the world, ultimately elevate their ways of working through facilitation competency and collaborative leadership there. So in my role, I've designed and direct many of our training programs, whether that's our B2C certification program or our B2B boot camps and trainings for companies. And then oftentimes I'm there helping to design larger digital transformation projects as well, using my background from higher ed and education, what it means to support folks in navigating change. So
That's awesome. So talk about some of your, obviously the customers that you work with, like who are you kind of designing these programs for? Who are these learners? And
Yep.
what are some of their biggest challenges?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the core, we work with leaders, widely defined. So oftentimes these are folks who lead teams in some form, product managers, project managers, chiefs of staff. We get VPs and founders who come to us. And they're all looking to improve how they lead and guide their teams, especially in this rapidly changing market and workplace. These are skills that sometimes folks have cultivated, but oftentimes haven't had an opportunity to really get guidance, coaching, training in what it means to help folks navigate this unique space as things oftentimes feel like they're changing by the hour, really, and also to the way that work looks continues to evolve in some pretty cool, but also ways that it can help to get some guidance and training and what it means to lead there.
Yeah, absolutely. And what would you say are some of the kind of biggest workforce development challenges facing leaders and their organizations and getting, leaders kind of to the place where they need to be in
Mhm,
their
mhm.
organizations?
Well, I mean, one of the greatest hits right now is certainly AI, as folks are trying to figure out what it means to keep up, right? As there's this race to implement in the best ways possible, what it means to purposefully do that with our teams and with many of the companies that we work with in ways that help to elevate and guide innovation, right? And what it means to have that meaningfully be part of a team context. What we see a lot of is folks have experience individually working with AI, right? Before a meeting or before a session. And so they may do something on their own, but then what does it mean to meaningfully integrate that in a team context? And so we work with folks on what it means to approach AI as another teammate, essentially, in a dynamic way.
Yeah, that's such an interesting point and something that's maybe not talked about a lot because it's always kind of thought about on that individual level, right? Like
Mhm,
how individuals using AI, but it's
mhm,
when you look at it from that leadership lens, it's like, okay, how are, you know, we kind of teaching this or like
mhm.
helping coach people to use AI
Yep,
in a team setting, which is different
yep,
than like just, you like chatting one on one with AI,
yeah.
like, or chat GPT.
No, absolutely.
So that's really
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. No, that's a place where, it's important for folks to get meaningful reps and what that looks like because ultimately we work in teams, right? And
right.
so if we want folks to get the experience of what it means to meaningfully bring that together, we've got to give them opportunities to get guided reps in that. And we see that that's something that at this point is still lacking. We also see, back to the rapidly shifting nature of our work as, we're remote, we're hybrid, we're working in ways cross-functionally that we haven't before. And leadership looks different, right? It's not top down, which is a good thing in many organizations. But then what does it mean to lead bottom out and up and lead sometimes from behind, from the middle, from the front? And what it means to dynamically shift in those ways. And that's at the core of facilitation competency is really knowing based on the purpose of bringing people together, how best to lead in those ways. So we get a lot of folks who come to us with that, just like, hey, I've been put in charge of and leading these teams in these ways. I don't know where to start on this, or meetings just have not been going in the ways that we'd hope. We've got people all over the world. Where do we begin to shift that? So.
Right, absolutely. And that kind of brings me into my next question,
Mhm.
the skill sets needed for success in any given role are constantly continuing to shift. What strategies do you recommend to organizations that they use to ensure that their workforce kind of remains adaptable and prepared? And I guess I should say strategies, right? Because there probably is
Yeah,
no
yeah, yeah.
one size
Yeah.
fits all.
No, for sure, for sure. No, here's the one strategy. The core of our trainings, our certifications, are a set of facilitation competency areas that we use with a variety of companies and organizations, and it's that the best facilitators, collaborative leaders are purposed, they're inclusive, they're clear, they're crafted, and they're adaptive. So just briefly, purpose, we really understand and are anchored in the why for why we're gathering folks, whether that is a short meeting, larger training, strategic planning session. We're inclusive in that we've deeply thought about who are the best people to be here in support of that purpose, and how do we support them in a safer environment to have the conversations we need to have. We're clear in communicating those pieces to the people that we've gathered. We're crafted, meaning that we're deliberate in how we design. We design experiences, not just agendas. And then finally, we're adaptive because we know that we're working with human beings. So all these things that we planned and are planful for are a good start and a good container, but ultimately we need to be ready to shift based on how the real human beings that we're working with take those up in service of that purpose that we started with. So those are the key pieces that, regardless of organization, transcend so many situations, and that's what we work with folks on.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, it is so concise and clear, like what you just said, but I think it really hits everything and can be adapted to kind of any
Yeah,
organization, any environment that they're working in.
yeah.
And I love the inclusive piece of that because I do feel like that's something that's really come out in the past 10 years is like this need for like people to be able to be like kind of vulnerable and
Hmm.
honest about what they
Yep.
do and don't know, and just with the state of the world in general, like to be able
Yeah,
to be like, hey, this is how I'm like
absolutely.
feeling about my
Hmm.
job or my role, like where it's going. I know that it's a really scary time for some people with AI being like, oh, is my job going to be over?
Hmm.
Like, okay,
Hmm.
take a step back.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's important for people. So
Absolutely. Yeah, it gives us an opportunity to create a space where we can have the conversations that ultimately are the the containers for some of those answers, because they oftentimes don't have neat and tidy answers, and there's something that we need to come up with in our
right.
organization. So
Yeah, absolutely. How do you suggest teams kind of assess and address skills gaps in order kind of to stay agile and adaptive in these changing workforce environments?
mhm. Well, for us, as we're focusing specifically on facilitation, collaborative leadership competency, I mean, a lot of it comes down to really making sure that you're regularly taking stock of where you are and where you're hoping to go. So how, especially, if we take the launch of a project or an initiative, have you done your homework in terms of surveying where folks are relative where you hope they're going to go? Are you creating opportunities to check in and reflect with them about how they're growing across a specific project or across their work and job? And then finally, at key points in the work, are you checking back in to see if you move the needle in the ways that you hope for? I come out, the higher ed space, especially in a lot of qualitative research. So I'm regularly encouraging folks to think about multiple data points, right? Not just the quantitative, that's a great starting point, but that should be wrapped with, deliberate conversations that you're having with folks, even how you tune in as a leader to the regular meetings that you're having, right? If you have these growth goals for folks, what might you key into or tap into or listen for deliberately just in that meeting that could be indicators of where folks are and where they are on the path to the growth that you all hope for.
Yeah, absolutely. That comes up a lot actually when I ask that question on this
Okay.
podcast, is
Good.
talking about not necessarily in the way that you just said it, but in
Yeah.
terms of having like data points, but
Yeah.
then also kind of like these anecdotal conversations, because there's so much that we need to kind of understand
Yep.
with individuals, like why they're maybe not hitting the data point.
Yep.
Might be something that we can't really interpret from data.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's right on.
Well,
Sorry.
it's just briefly, and it's something that we work with a lot of our folks on. It's an attunement, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that we find is so key in a lot of the development that we do, is getting folks to sharpen their attunement to listen to the right signals, right? Because I think oftentimes folks, just based on legacy and routine, are tuned to listen to signals that aren't ultimately in line with where they're hoping to go, right?
Right. Right, absolutely. Especially in like a leadership role, right? Because
Yeah,
they think they've done, they've gone this path, so this is the path, but it's like
exactly.
exactly that path for
Yeah.
other individuals, right?
Yeah, and I think that's where we are right now, right? For folks who are rising into these leadership roles, what got them there
Yeah.
isn't necessarily what's going to get their teams and the other folks around them to the next there, based on how rapidly things are shifting. So.
Right. Absolutely. Erik, do you have an example of a successful kind of case study or initiative that you've seen or developed that has really significantly impacted employee performance or the organization overall?
Yeah, I mean, think of a couple of things here. In the B2C version of our work, we have a public facilitation certification program. There's handfuls of stories of folks, many of people who are in internal roles in larger enterprise companies who come to us, oftentimes struggling with guiding meetings, guiding trainings, or just wanting to level things up, and really powerful transformation stories that they've been able to use our competencies and exercises in leveling up what it means to gather their teams in some real powerful ways. And there's a whole host of, I'm sure you'll be sharing the the link to our website. There's a whole host of what we call alumni stories on there, so people can see, for folks from a variety of backgrounds, what it meant to go through this work there. And then when it comes to our B2B work, without giving up specific company names here, we've worked with some key large enterprise companies, especially in the tech space, and working with, I'm thinking of a specific company here, um, product managers who were looking to improve the quality of their meetings and training work that they were doing. And we started with, always in these B2B trainings, we start with an assessment in terms of confidence in ultimately these core competency areas that I mentioned before: purpose, inclusive, clear, crafted, adaptive. And we ask folks questions, things like, how confident are you in your ability to guide difficult conversations or navigate conflict? That kind of stuff, and ask people about that initial confidence. And we did both a 1 and 2 day boot camp with some of their teams, and ultimately ended up, as we circled back around, seeing exponential growth in confidence there, and even folks laying out new visions for meetings and steps that they were going to take in their trainings. And as we've circled back around with this company, in continuing to work with them, because it had the impact that it did, shared of that ongoing presence in the work there that folks have had. Also, too, I'd say we have an interesting context in our work where we'll get folks from companies that will send 1 or 2 people through our B2C trainings, and then, because of that impact there, have us come and do whole things for their teams. So it's another company I'm thinking of here, where we oftentimes are working with their chiefs of staff in our facilitation certification, and we recently went out to lead their chief of staff summit with facilitation competency at the core. So.
That's awesome. And I bet those organizations are so grateful, because it's just one more, to have, it's almost like, this is such an important thing for our organization. Can you all come in and like really help us do it the right way?
Mhm.
I'm sure they're so grateful for that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What role do you see technology playing in different programs? And are there certain like tool sets that you encourage folks to make sure that they have set up?
hmm Well, I mean, it should be meaningfully at the core of the work that you do. Back to previous piece of our conversation, as a team, right? So, how can it be part of everyday practice, whatever is in your tool stack, right? So, your choices around that should be meaningfully aligned with the purpose that you're hoping for in the work. Too often, I see tool stacks based on routine versus purpose there. So, um, If I'm were to call out here tools that we are oftentimes using with folks, it's certainly Zoom, especially in a lot of the virtual and hybrid work that we do, and we come back to Zoom time and again because of how much more dynamic it is in terms of its ability to pair and break out and things like that. That the other tools just aren't there for those pieces. We use Miro with our clients and students quite a bit. We're actually a Miro solutions partner, so I have a deep partnership with Miro and believe a great deal in its capacity to help move teams in the kinds of collaborative intelligence that we're talking about here and facilitation. So um, Miro allows teams to gather around. For folks who aren't familiar with this, it's a visual collaboration tool, allows teams to gather around a common whiteboard space with stickies, with visuals, with an opportunity to have the work right out in front of us and to move things around together. And increasingly, with the AI capacities in Miro, it's amazing what that can now do in terms of this AI as a teammate, right? As a dynamic collaborator with folks in the tool, in terms of being able to help summarize and synthesize, in being able to pop things in alongside you as you're facilitating there.
Right? That's incredible. Just in real time having
Mhm.
like that
Yep.
like summary there to be able to
Yep.
do that or
And
like
there's more to come here too. They have the Canvas, the big product event, is here on October 14th, and there's a bunch of new AI features that they are unveiling there. We're a platinum sponsor, so deeply connected with that event, and have
that's
had a lot of fun helping to build out some pieces there that will be unveiled at that event. And again, I just can't say enough about how cool it has been to see what that tool enables for that AI as a part of the team versus AI as just something I do on the side here that may or may not have impact on what I do as a team member or team leader. So
I was just going to say that comes back to what you're saying, what we were talking about at the beginning. And I love that, everyone, of course, like knows, Chat GPT or how are we using like
mhm,
tools like
mhm.
Chat GPT or whatever. And it's a
Yeah,
very individualized kind of thing. So it's
right.
really cool to hear when
Yeah.
you're seeing AI integrated into a tool or a platform and it's really
Yes.
helping like facilitate the team
Yep.
aspect of it. So that's really cool.
Yep. Yep.
And very exciting. We'll be excited to see what they announce and
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I'll share some links with you. Folks can check out, and there's more on our website, and we'll be having we have some different custom templates and things that folks can use to play around and
yeah.
see how that works. So
That's awesome. We will absolutely share that.
cool.
Um, Thinking about kind of the industry in general over the
Mhm.
past 5 years or so, what would be some of the key takeaways you've seen? And to kind of expand upon that question, looking to the future, what would be some of the key takeaways that you've seen and how they're kind of transforming into the future?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, again, rapidly shifting, especially over the last 5 years, and I see this both in the private and public spaces because I'm still very connected to the higher ed landscape. I mean, obviously, folks can get their learning in so many different spaces now, and in ways that they are more at the center, have a lot more agency, which is cool, right? I think that's a good step forward. I
Totally.
think that has also led to proliferation of opportunities for folks to get learning of varying qualities, right? So I think it's one of those things that's also presented some questions about where to get the best and in the best ways, those kinds of things, and making sure that we're not just all in on-demand spaces where we don't have opportunities to get guided practice and reflection and things like that. Yeah, I think also too, I've seen more companies take seriously the growth and experience of their employees, right? Um,
Yeah.
which is great. It's what oftentimes has folks reach out to us to think meaningfully about that. At the same time, again, when we're in this rapid shifting both marketplace and company space and learning space, sometimes it doesn't lead to the highest quality of experiences, or um, may have folks reach for something that is they think is one size fits all, but doesn't ultimately help people adapt and create the kind of competency they need for both what is now and what is next. So that's something that, I think the more that we can do as L&D leaders to make sure that we're supporting, creating, designing spaces where folks have real opportunities to practice, right? In relation to what both they're experiencing now, but also what we see on the horizon, the better. And making sure that we're guiding companies, clients, et cetera, in investing meaningfully there. I think that's something that I still see sometimes with folks, is like, oh, it's gonna take that to grow. It's like, well, yeah, actually it will. This isn't a one-off. People don't sit in a 90-minute session and all of a sudden build the kind, to the
Yeah.
example earlier, build the reps that they need with AI at the center of a team or as a teammate. Like, that takes practice and reflection and guidance. And so that's something that I would hope that for listeners and otherwise, we continue to think more meaningfully about what it means to dynamically support folks in growing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so key and so important. And I think, something that you were talking about that is also really important that I want to highlight is just this need for, especially if we're looking at the past like year and a half of change with
Mhm.
AI, right? And how
Mhm.
rapidly that changed,
Mhm.
making space for people
Yep.
to practice and like prepare for change, or like kind of, get
Mhm.
comfortable with rapid change, almost like just
Yep.
that concept, or the fact that yes,
Absolutely.
this is going to keep happening really, really quick because it's not slowing
Yep.
down,
No, absolutely.
And
Absolutely. And I think
important.
that's a place where, we have the opportunity, as folks who support leaders, in cultivating their ability to get grounded, get present, to slow things down enough to get the clarity they need to make decisions as things are rapidly moving around them. And that models then for their teams how they can show up too. I think that's the thing that I see time and again is, folks are swept up in what's there versus what can we do to get regrounded, get
Yeah.
that clarity, and that's infectious, right, on a team.
Yes, and that practice is something that skill set of
Mhm.
being able to do that, to slow down, get
Absolutely.
clarity, is going to be, I think, one of the most essential like skill sets for the next
Uh-huh.
however long, forever.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's counter cultural right now in this speed that, both in adopting AI and the AI companies and trying to continue to build and build and build so that they can be the first to get to that next level up. And it's sped things up in ways that I think are not so good, right, for
Right.
our teams. But we do have the opportunity to act or react differently there.
Right. Right. And I love that. I think, and I love that countercultural kind of concept.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
Very- Eric, to close on a positive note, what is the most important lesson that you've learned on your journey that you would pass on to someone just starting out on theirs?
Yeah. So I mean, I would say here two pieces of the point earlier. And it's interesting because we've got a master's cert cohort going right now, and so we talk a lot about the internal work of facilitation, all that stuff we do long before we're with a group that help us show up in the ways that we should. I think when first starting out in this space, I was so focused on accumulating methods and accumulating like let's make the tool belt as big as it can be. And over time you realize actually it's about being more purposeful and reducing to the absolute essentials there. So to that point around slowing down, I think if folks who are just getting in could be in more of that mind frame, what's most essential for the success of this group, and let's focus on that. And also too, what's the most essential value I bring, and let me focus on that. I don't need to accumulate and know everything, which is such a key part of mastery, right? It's like we get comfortable with how little we find out we know as we accumulate more, so we can focus in on what's absolutely essential there. So I would say for folks just starting out, what are your unique gifts and values that you bring to a group? Focus in there, and then what's most essential for the purpose that you're trying to accomplish with the teams you're leading. Use that as the grounding point.
Absolutely. I think that's phenomenal advice because it's hard. It's so hard, especially if you're in a role where you're using technology. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
this new tech, there's this new tech.
Right.
I need to learn it. I need to learn it. I need to learn
Yep.
it. And back to what you've been talking about, like that purpose piece of it. It's like,
Mhm.
what is the purpose of this?
Yes.
Do we really need it?
Yeah. If
So
we had, I mean, if, man, just if that was the starting point, right, for any conversation or any gathering, whether that's a small meeting or a larger training, um, imagine what that does culturally, right? Because so much of the work that we're called in to do oftentimes has something to do with a drift from purpose or a misunderstanding about purpose. And what if everybody started there, whether they're leading the meeting or not, right? Would lead to more meaningful work too,
yeah.
right? So
And maybe less meetings, right? Because I feel like everyone could use.
yes, that's a whole other conversation. We always give it's funny because that's one of our meeting mantras with our clients is no purpose, no meeting. So if you haven't identified it, you shouldn't put it on somebody's calendar, right? You should take some more time to make that clear for yourself before you ask of others.
I absolutely love that. You should trademark that phrase and put it
Yeah,
on
there we
sticky
go.
notes and just hand them out
Yes,
to companies and be
there
like,
we go.
no meeting.
There we go. I think we've got the title of this podcast here,
Yes.
this episode. There we go.
So, Erik, thank you so much for joining us today on the
Absolutely.
NovoED Talks podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed our conversation.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to another episode of NovoED Talks.